All right, everyone. It is Saturday, June 11th, 2022. We're back here for another family education and support group hosted by myself, Param, and really excited for doing this one. So let me give a quick introduction of myself to anybody that may be here for the first time. So my name is Param. I do this live stream each and every single Saturday for the most part. And I'll tell you what the intention of it is. But so I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy with an emphasis in child development. So hopefully that helps. I am also a licensed addictions counselor. So hopefully that helps. I'm also in recovery myself from substances and mental health and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully that helps. And I'm also a high school basketball coach. I've been doing that for 14 seasons. Not really sure if that helps this setting, but my hope is that my personal, professional background and expertise allows me to be able to provide some support, a resource to be able to help those who are looking to find and seek recovery, transformation, healing, or a little bit of in between. So good morning, Debbie. Good morning, Jim. Good morning, Cataline. Welcome. Happy to have you here again. And anyone else, good morning, Mom and Dad. Always good to see Mom and Dad on. And I look forward to this. So the intention of these talks is the following. The intention of these talks is to be able to create a little small community. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but a little small community that there are individuals who have came here for the same reason, which is because in their lives, they personally have been impacted by or are being impacted by, or maybe even will be impacted by addiction, mental illness, and all of the ramifications and consequences and the impact that has on the family unit and the individuals themselves. So like I say every week, good morning, Jose and John. Like I say every week, there are people, right? There are individuals who come here because they want to be here. But for the most part, whoever is here is because they have someone in their life, a qualifier, a loved one, a family member who has struggled, and someone has said, hey, this might be a good place for you to go to learn a little bit about the addiction recovery process, to go and understand a little bit about kind of what's happening here, because it is a foreign language to many people. And we do the best we can with what we got, but most people don't know how to deal with something that is that emotionally triggering. Because here's the thing, if your loved one's got addictions, or if your loved one's struggling with depression or bipolar or serious anxiety disorders, and they're doing things that is invoking emotions in you, so they're heightening your emotions, it is hard to logically think when your emotions are heightened. They kind of can't be up at the same time. So talks like this allow your emotions to kind of come down so you can hear clearly, you can see clearly, and hopefully, based on the new information and the change in mindset, be able to take actions that are different than the ones you took in the past. Good morning, Tony. So this talk is something I've done this one before. And I checked the last time I did this specific talk, there was a Christmas tree behind me, and it wasn't this Christmas, so it must have been the Christmas before that. I looked at the video, so it's been a while. Let's just call it. For some of you that have been doing this talk for the past 2 years, you for sure have heard this, But like I say every week, the same way I am not the same person I was the last time I presented this talk. You are not the same person you were the last time you heard this talk. So please always go into every experience in life with open eyes, open ears, open heart, and see what you can get from that experience, because the whole world can waste our time, but don't waste your own time. So if you've dedicated a chunk of your Saturday to sit here, to stare at your phone or stare at your computer, stare at your television, to watch this, make sure that you leave this experience with something that you didn't have before. And yes, Tony, let's put a comment up. It's all about changing the way we see things and perceive situations. Well said. There's a quote that I use every single week. I know if Serapis is watching this, she's going to die laughing because I say it all the time. But here it is. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Right? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So today's talk is all about making changes in life. I want to make changes. You want to make changes. Whoever the heck is watching this right now is trying to make changes. what people do is they experience a situation and say, you know what? I am ready. Sarah just said I was ready for it. There it is. After all these years, Sarah, you can change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. So everybody wants to make changes. I'll tell you this. You would not be watching this, at least in the initial stage, if there was not some significant change in your life that you were trying to make, right? Because nobody has ever gone into a recovery program. Nobody has ever gone into a recovery support group saying that everything in my life is great. My family's great. My relationships are great. My health is great. My loved ones are great. My job is great. My bank account is great. I have not met one person that's ever sat in front of me in a therapy chair and said, hey, my life is good. What's going on with you? They always show up when there are some significant changes in their life they need to make. Okay. So if you've been watching this for a while, you're like, hey, thank God I don't have the same changes I used to have to make, but there's new stuff. So it's safe to say, as long as we're human beings, as long as our heart is beating and we're breathing air and living life, we want to change something. So many people want to make changes in life. However, not many people succeed. And do you ever wonder why? It's not because they're weak. It's not because they don't have willpower. It's not because they don't have the desire to. It is because they lack the simple ingredients needed to make changes last, to make changes occur, and to create the right ecosystem for transformation to occur. Now, in order for all of that to happen, there needs to be some elements. And what I did was, over let's just say a decade of working with people, I sat there and I said, okay, this person was able to change. What unique characteristics and qualities did this person have? This person was able to change. What unique characteristics and qualities did they demonstrate? Did they have that they were able to change? And over time, over a course of 10 years and thousands of people, I was able to identify the common ones that existed amongst all people who were able to make change. And what I want to do today is share those with you. So today's talk is going to provide you with an acronym. And in that acronym, I'm going to identify each element needed, the ingredients needed to make successful changes. And here we go. So think of the word change, CHANGE, for those of you who have a trouble time with spelling. I don't know why I did that. And here we go. So the first letter is the word C, is the letter C. And there's a few different components here that I want to focus on. So in order to make successful changes in life, you must have courage in life. Making a change is a courageous act. And here is why. Well, first, you have to understand what the meaning of the word courage is. Courage means to take action in life despite of feeling fear, internal and external fear. So whenever you do something despite of being afraid, you are courageous. Now, why is that the first ingredient needed to make changes in life? Because making changes is scary. We are afraid of doing what it is that we're not doing. We are afraid of getting out of our comfort zone. We are afraid of letting go of what's familiar. We are afraid of doing what we do each and every single day. So in order to do that, to make a change, it takes courage. It takes a lot of courage. And if you're ever wondering why the word courage is always linked to men, women of the armed forces, to firefighters, to cops, to paramedics, you want to know why? Because each and every single day, those people have to do things despite of fear. They take action despite of fear. And that is why it is called a courageous act. So for any family member watching this right now, I want you to know that even watching something like this is an act of courage. Why? Because I have a feeling that you have a lot of fear inside you. You are scared of addiction. You are scared of loved ones' relapses. You are scared of all of the consequences of addiction. You're terrified of it. But despite of that fear, you're taking action and sitting over here right now. Jim's got a good acronym that we use in recovery programs. Fear, the word fear, can also be described as face everything and recover. Face everything and recover. There's a second side of that, Jim. I'll let you say it too if you want to. I'm going to pause. I have a feeling you'll say it. If you don't want to face everything and recover, there's another option. And sometimes people do that. And that is definitely not an act of courage. And if Jim doesn't say it, I'll bring it up in a sec. But so the first one is courage. Courage is defined as taking action despite of fear. making changes in life is a courageous act, because if it wasn't, we'd be doing the same thing we were doing before. Committed to comfort, committed to misery, committed to the status quo. And that doesn't mean change. There you go. Hey, I didn't say it, everyone. So fear can either be face everything and recover, or fear can be F everything and run. And that's the two options you have when faced with fear. You either face it head on, or you just say, peace, and you're out the door. Same S, different day. Thank you, Jim. I couldn't say that one out loud, but you did it. So, hey, it was him, not me. If anybody got offended, blame Counselor Jim. So the next one that I have here is the word commitment. All right. I believe that our society as a whole has this word commitment watered down and almost non-existent, right? We have this joke that everyone uses every single year about, oh, New Year's resolutions are coming. Millions of people want to change, but you know what's going to happen? 4 days later, everybody just blows up the resolution. I don't get why that's so funny. I think that is a significant, macro problem that we are experiencing as human beings, that people, despite of the desire to change their lives, despite of having reasons and motivations and the why to change their life, they're unable to do it after 4 days. That's a problem. Why is that the case? Because we don't care about commitment. So what is commitment? I'll give you the definition. Commitment equals the motivation and willingness to continue doing something after the initial excitement has worn off. After the initial excitement's worn off. Everybody can start something, my friends. Not many people finish what they start, let alone finish it with integrity and all the way through the finish line. People do something for a day, a week, a month, but then all of a sudden they're like, I'm good. And in that moment right there, change stops. Transformation stops. People become the same version of themselves over and over and over again. Commitment is something that needs to be practiced on a daily basis. When you don't want to do something, that's when you have to do it. When you don't want to go somewhere, that's when you have to go. When you don't want to feel something, that's when you have to take action despite of that feeling. Contrary actions is literally the definition of commitment. You think everybody that accomplishes things in life, every morning they wake up, they're like, oh, I can't wait to do everything I want to do. Most people wake up and say, I don't want to do it. But guess what they do? Despite of it, they do it. It's so easy to be committed when your back's against the wall. It's so easy to be committed when there's heat on your back. But as soon as it cools down and it calms down and no one's watching, that's where commitment actually kicks in, right? So the next one that we have over here, and by the way, any comments, feedbacks, feel free to write questions. I will always respond. You know I do. The next one for the C is this word compassion. I love this word. I think compassion is a beautiful, beautiful thing in life. I practice compassion with other human beings. I practice compassion towards animals. I practice compassion towards life. I practice compassion sometimes to myself, right? I'm a little harder on myself than I am on others, but I'm a work in progress too, right? So if you're trying to make changes in your life, if you don't extend that same grace and that same compassion you give to other people to yourself, it is incomplete. Because check this out, when you're trying to change something in your life, that tells me that there's going to be a little bit of work involved. And guess what? You're a human being and you're going to fall short sometimes in that process. Sometimes you're even going to use the word fail. As long as you fall down, man, fail forward. Get up and continue moving from that fallen place. And if you do that over a period of time, you will succeed. But what happens is when people try to make changes and they fall short, they get mad at themselves. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. God, what's wrong with me? Well, guess what? Nothing's going to change. But as soon as you fall down and say, God, I'm trying the best I could. I gave it all I had. And I'm going to get back up and try again. And that's when all of a sudden change occurs. Breaking through that, working through that, doing through that. That's where change occurs. So the first three were courage, commitment, and compassion. Courage is taking action despite of fear. Compassion is the motivation and willingness to do something after the initial excitement's worn off, because anybody could do that. And compassion means the same dignity, and grace that you extend to other human beings, the same generosity, to give it to yourself when you fall short in life. You need all three of those. If you miss any of those, you're not going to make changes in your life. Straight up. How do I know this? Because I've worked with thousands of people. They sat down with me. They said they want to change, and they fell short. And guess what? Somewhere along the line, they didn't have courage. Somewhere along the line, they lacked commitment. Somewhere along the line, they just failed miserably of having compassion towards themselves. So the next one is the H, and what we have here is 3, and some of them are just 1, so bear with me here. The 3, the first one is humility. What a beautiful trait to have, right? And what am I talking about when it comes to change? The humility I'm referring to here is this, is when you're trying to change something in your life, no shame in your game if you say, hey, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Somewhere, growing up in life, it's okay for children to not know what they're doing. Like if a child says, I don't know how to do it, all the adults say, well, let me show you how. But somewhere along the line, our ego gets involved and we think we're supposed to be these all-knowing, well-rounded human beings that have no flaws. And if we experience any type of fear or we experience any type of challenges, what we do is this. I'm supposed to know how to do this. How do I not know how to do this? When in reality, bring the ego down, increase the humility, raise your hand and say, can somebody help me? I need some help. The same way you would want a child to ask for help. What's wrong with an adult asking for help? Because guess what? 10 years from now, this version of you is going to be a child. 20 years from now, this version of you is going to be a child. We're always evolving. I mean, how long is 100 years anyways? It's all a blip. Let's see what we have here. Eileen, thank you for your participation always. I suggest that we also add empathy to compassion. Just because I cannot relate to the issue does not mean that it is not very real to the other person. So I have an idea, Eileen. I'm going to use what you just said right now, and I'm going to make my talk even better. So we have courage, we have change, so CHANGE. The last one where I have the word, the E, we're going to add empathy to that one. All right, so it matches the acronyms and it works. So I will definitely add that to it, and it's going to work out really nicely. So thank you for that. And yes, Jim, it is okay to ask for help and stay humble. I mean, why can't adults ask for help? And here's the thing: if you're trying to change something that you don't know how to change, so I was talking to our program participants this morning. Some of them have had a little bit of recovery time or sobriety time, and for whatever reason, there was a relapse in their life. But for the most part, the overwhelming number of them have never really had more than like 30, 60, 90 days, abstaining from substances. So if that's the case, it's safe to say that that person has no freaking idea how to stay sober long-term. Zero. Right? I mean, they've never had the experience, so how the heck would you know how to do it? So for those human beings, it's okay to say, I have no idea. And guess what? Find someone who knows the way. Find someone who shows the way. Find someone who goes the way. And maybe they'll take you to the same place. Might as well. Like, if you ever go to a foreign land, have you ever heard of a tour guide? What's the benefits of a tour guide? Well, the tour guide knows where to go, what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And I'm not saying you can't do that on your own, especially this day and age with these smartphones. I'm pretty sure you can replace a tour guide, but you understand the analogy. Let's see what Cataline said here. The golden rule says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Yes, and that, I wish the world would live that way, huh? I wish the world would live that way. And we know that regardless of what other people do and say, we follow the golden rule. There's a ancient Iranian religion called Zoroastrianism that's been around for long, long time. Their whole entire doctrine, like what their belief system is good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Have good thoughts towards yourself and others. Do good things for yourself and others, and say good things to yourself and others. Like, imagine if the world lived that way. How cool would that be? So the H of honesty. So the H has, humility. The next H is honesty. When you're trying to change something in your life, you must, and I'm not saying you should or you'll benefit from, you must get brutally honest with where you currently are. Like if you're 100 pounds overweight and you're trying to change and lose weight, you have to accept that you're 100 pounds overweight. If you're 500 miles away from your destination, you must honestly say, I'm 500 miles away from the destination. You know, we talk about shortcuts and we'll talk about it here in a little bit again. But honesty is something that most people, when they want to change, they'll say, yeah, I'm trying to change this, but they're not getting fully honest with where they really are in life. And it's a hard thing to do because why? It's like lifting the covers, lifting the veil, exposing ourselves, showing ourselves. You know, I remember when I was going back to school and I was going back to school, 25 years old, and I dropped out of college when I was about 20. So I had some college units. I wasn't a complete dropout. I had some college units, but I had nothing, to call it what it is. And I go to these groups and these counseling places and I see these counselors and these therapists and they inspired me. I'm like, God, I want to be like this person. So I go to the guidance counselor at school and I say, if I want to become a therapist, what do I have to do? And they're like, oh, that's easy. Here you go. They wrote down the whole entire path and they kept writing and writing and writing and writing. I'm sitting there like, this is a long journey. This is a long journey. And they kept writing it and writing it. And eventually she got done. And on the bottom of the paper, it said like minimum 7 years if you go consistently without taking any breaks. Okay. So in that moment, I wanted to be a therapist. I had to get honest of how long that was going to take. The honesty is a very, very important thing. And, you either do it or you don't, but it's a very important thing. And, oh yeah, Jim, we're rolling right into that one. Change has the letter A in it. And you just did a little spoiler alert. The letter A is going to be exactly what you're going to talk about there. So the H, there's one more H. This one is kind of newer. I didn't use it in my previous talk, but I kind of felt like compelled to use it. It's the word hope. Hope. Simple word, loaded meaning. Beautiful meaning. I like the context of it. When you're trying to change something in life, you have to have a glimmer of hope that it's possible. So if someone tells me I can never be sober, I can never manage my mental illness, I can never go back to school, I can never raise a family, I can never succeed in society, I can never blah, 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 blah. Guess what? They will never be able to be sober. They will never be able to manage their mental illness. They will never be able to go back to school. They will never be able to create a family. Whether you can or you can't, you're right. We got to have hope. And I get it. It's so hard to have hope when you're depressed and down and out and strung out. And, if you're a family member, you're sleeping there just hopeless. When you're hopeless and helpless. I get it. I've been there. My family's been there. You've been there. But you got to hold a little bit of hope. And just the possibility of something being different. And I'm not saying you got to think that, hey, right when someone gets sober, you start this recovery process, that everything's going to get better. Because that's like a big leap to go from, hey, I'm just trying to look 2 feet in front of me. I'm just trying to see what the heck's in front of me right now. I don't even care what's happening down the line. I just want to get through today. Well, have a little bit of hope that you can get through today. Sometimes it's have a little hope that you can get through the next hour. Have a little hope that you can get through the next minute. Hope is a powerful thing that I think humans can tap into that a lot of animals can't. But it's the word hope. And yeah, Julian gave another acronym for fear: false evidence appearing real. So, a lot of times we have distorted thinking and we have experiences in our life that kind of taint the way we view life. So when we experience something, we get in fear. And it's sometimes just completely irrational. They call it irrational fear. But in the mind of the person, it's really, really, really real. So that's kind of what fear is: false evidence appearing real. And Jim kind of backed up the hope one. So the next one, there's a line here Jim put: acceptance is the key to all of my problems today. And that doesn't mean I can accept everything right now, but I stay willing. And actually ties into hope too. I actually tied both of them together. Acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. You know, I'm not one of those people that likes all or nothing, but when it comes to this specific example, acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. When you don't like something, you either have to accept the fact that you don't like it or just accept it as it comes. You have to accept life on life's terms. What people want to do is they want to resist it. And guess what? The more you resist something, the more it's going to persist. The more you resist a thought, the more it's going to start to ruminate. The more you resist a person, the more the person's going to annoy the hell out of you. The more you resist a situation, the bigger that situation is going to get, and false evidence is going to start appearing really damn real. So acceptance is definitely the next one of change. And that's what a lot of people don't want to do. So I always use this analogy, and I'm going to use it again for anyone watching this the first time. So if you've heard me say this 5 times, 10 times, 50 times, 100 times, my apologies. But hey, guess what? If you've heard me say it that many times, imagine how many times I've said it. Like 4 million times. So I'm going to say it again, and that's okay. So if I give you an address to somewhere, all right, so just think about an address to a place in the United States that you have no idea where it is, right? I don't really give you the state to throw you off. All it says is just kind of like the number, the street, maybe the city. And you're like, all right, well, I have no idea how to get there, Parham. And I say, well, funny you ask, because, you know, this is 2022. We got these things called smartphones, and you can grab your phone and you can put the address in. Before the phone can calculate your address, before it calculate your journey to get there, it needs to do something first. It needs to find out where the hell you currently are. Without finding out where you are in life, you will never get to where you're trying to go. So first, you got to be honest about where you're at, correct? And now the phone says, hey, you are 2,000 miles away from your destination. At that specific moment, you have a choice. You either accept it or you don't. If you accept it, you go on a slow journey that will get you to the 2,000-mile destination. If you resist it and don't accept it, which what most people do, by the way, I know it sounds weird, but like majority of people do this, they go like this. Man, I know it says 2,000, but I'm going to get there in 500 miles. I don't need to go 2,000 miles. I'm going to hack the system. I'm going to get there in 500 miles. And guess what? They start going on their journey 500 miles. And they look around and they don't like what they see. They're scared. It doesn't look like the promise. And guess what they do? Like every single man and woman has done from the beginning of time, when they get lost and frustrated, they make a U-turn and go back to where they came from. And that's why life doesn't change, because they never accepted how far they are from their destination. When you accept it, everything else is just autopilot. You're going to get there. So some people say they want to change their life around, and a counselor like me says, hey, it might take you 18 months to 2 years. And they're like, 18 months to 2 years. Watch me. After 90 days, I'm going to have this, and this. After 90 days, I'll be fully self-sufficient functioning. All right. Have fun with that. Let me know how that goes. Whatever you do, enjoy the journey. But I don't think it's going to take you to where you're trying to get to. It's not really my place to tell somebody that, but sometimes I'll kind of tell somebody that, because the reality of it is this, is healing takes time. I mean, imagine going into a medical setting and you just shattered your femur, or you shattered your legs or your bone or your hip, and you walk in there and the doctor says, yo, it's going to take like 6 months to 1 year of physical therapy for you to be able to just function the way you were functioning, let alone going back to skiing or running or exercising and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, yeah, right. I'm going to get there in 90 days. That's what people do in the addiction world for some reason. I mean, I understand I'm not a medical doctor, but I am a licensed clinician in the field of mental health and addiction. So I have the platform. If I tell someone it's going to take you a year to recover, they're going to look at me like I'm crazy. But the people that are going through addictions, they got wounds. They're broken inside oftentimes. Instead of their femur being broken, their soul is broken. Their heart is broken. Their world is broken. How come that doesn't deserve the same type of healing timeline? You know, I don't know. So let's see what Cataline said. I want to give you a shout out. Thank you. I like shout outs. Feel free anytime. Well, I was in a rehab program. Hope is what you gave me in the most. That's nice. That's why I'm here every Saturday. So first of all, I'm going to give you a shout out, Cataline. You ready? This is what I do for a living, right? So I speak this way. I do my best to be very engaged and passionate and fired up and lit up. And the same way that you sat there one day and heard me speak, so have many, 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 many other people. Yet despite of that, you are the one who chooses to be here on a Saturday. So I appreciate the compliment, and I appreciate that I was able to turn on some hope in your life. But whatever you've done since that moment has all been on you. Because there's people that probably sat on the same couches next to you, Kathleen, listening to the same damn talk that I gave. It went in one ear and out the other, and it didn't impact their life, or even worse. Some of them might not be around anymore. Some of those same people might not be around anymore. And for whatever reason, I wasn't able to give them hope, but you were able to get it. So I don't take credit for that. I'll take the compliment and the shout out all day, every day. But I want you to know that there's something about you that chooses to be here. So give yourself some credit for this fact that you're here. So the N that I have is the word no. Simple. Just N-O. If you are trying to make changes in your life, you must learn how to say no. Say no to your desires. Say no to your wishes. Say no to your comfort. Say no to the previous way of life. Why is that? Because if you say yes to all those things, you're going to keep recreating the same damn life. You have to gain the psychological and emotional muscles to be able to say no to temptation, to people, to places, to things. And I know some of you are codependent. I know some of you think that if you say no to somebody, they are going to like you less. They are going to judge you. They're going to think, oh, what a petty person. Who cares? Their opinion of you is none of your business. When you're trying to change your life around, laser focus, don't care about the opinions of others, and do you until you get what it is you're trying to change, until you transform. Allow that version to go communicate with these people later on down the line. So saying no is very tough. I get it. Warren Buffett, who is somebody that is well respected and admired by different people, has a pretty profound quote when it comes to saying no. And here it is. He says the difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people have learned to say no to almost everything. That's powerful. And does that mean like, hey, if someone's asking you for your help, just say no, just say no? No, pick and choose. He said almost everything. Almost everything. I would say never say yes to someone at your own cost. Like some people know they have 10 things to do and someone asks them to do something and like in their mind, they're saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. Okay, what time do you want me to pick you up? It's like, what just happened there? And then they get full of anxiety and resentment and frustration. And then they even do one step further. They'll call the person and come up with a bogus lie and excuse of why they can't do it that's not even rooted in reality. And that kind of stuff adds up, by the way. And if you are a person that has a hard time saying no, I want to have a little compassion for you, a little empathy for you, for Eileen, a little empathy, is if you come from a family system growing up that you had a lot of responsibilities placed on you and you were responsible for a lot of people and you were like a parentified child and you had to grow up way faster and whatever they told you to do, you had to do because you had no other choice, it creates lifelong patterns that are hard to break. So right now, when someone asks you to do something, my homework assignment to you is this. Tell them no. Just say no. And you're like, what do you mean just say no? I always say yes. If I say no, they're going to think something's wrong or they did something wrong. That's none of your business. People don't think about you as much as you think they think about you, by the way. I hope everybody knows that. Everybody, okay, let's think about how often you're thinking about yourself in your own life, like what you got going on, your bills, your family, your plans, your schedule, your life, your obligations, think about how much you think about your own life. Now, I want you to imagine this, that everybody else is also thinking about themselves the same amount of time. So if everybody's thinking about themselves, guess who they are not thinking about as much as you think they're thinking about? You. I hope that resonates and sits with somebody. I hope it does because there's so much truth to that. And I'm glad you love it, Sandra. Happy to see you back on here again. And congrats to you and your family. That's a really, really big accomplishments happening. And I'm personally grateful to be a part of the journey. I'll tell you that. We got the G right here. So the G, there's two of them. Number one is growth. And why do I talk about growth? I mean, you know me, I'm about personal development. I believe that the current version of you needs to be able to look back to a previous version of you and acknowledge and see and feel tangible growth. Now, that growth can come at the level of the mind, the body, the spirit, to relationships, to communication. I don't care which area of growth it is. It needs to have some type of tangible growth. Never, ever, ever compare yourself to other people. Always, always, always compare yourself to a previous version of yourself. By comparing ourselves to other people, we will always be inadequate, or you will just say you're better than other people and do some false pride stuff. But if you compare yourself to a previous version of yourself, you can actually say, I'm proud of myself. I can see my growth. I can see my growth. And here's the thing. So this is perfect. I love this so much. Bill, thank you. I'm not sure if we've met, but Bill said something here. And this is what every parent here is going to identify. And please, the parents that have been watching me talk for a long time, say something here to Bill that says you understand this, because this is the premise of like enabling and codependency that happens in the addiction world. Parents think that by saying no to their child, that something's going to happen. They feel guilty. And that's a natural response. Parents love their kids. Parents want to do anything and everything they can for their kids. But sometimes they say yes to their kids because they don't want to feel the guilt. Like the parent doesn't want to feel the guilt. By doing something for them, they don't feel bad about it at least. But here's the thing. If you do something for someone else that they could and should be doing for themselves, you're enabling them. And I know that's like a very fine line, but I swear it's real. And you are not responsible for that guilt after you say no to people. That's a deep, deep pattern. And I promise you it happened long before you had a kid. I don't even know who you are, Bill. So I apologize for me talking so directly to you. Time's short. And that was a very powerful and courageous comment. I want to acknowledge it. Every parent here watching this, man, I promise you at some point, including my mom and dad, I promise there was times my parents like bought me things like expensive things because I was just throwing such bad, like they just felt bad. They just felt guilty to say no, honestly. And it was like at the time, it's like, hey, thank you so much. You guys did it. But it was actually a bad move. Not blaming them for it, but because they just didn't want to feel the guilt. And by the way, the more our upbringing has events, like where I see this the most, Bill, when I work with people as a therapist, if there's ever like a parent in like a family, like a spouse couple that goes through a divorce at like the formative years of a child, both those parents have this like serious guilt they hold on to, and they just do the most outlandish, wild requests and things for their kids out of their own guilt. And love and guilt don't live in the same world. Love and guilt don't live in the same. Do things with love and learn how to let go of that guilt. So I'm sorry for harping on this one, but this was like a really powerful comment that was really needed. Let's see what Eileen said here. Oh, yes. If our inner child was told and still believes that you are not a good girl or good boy, if you say no, then the work needs to recognize that inner child into the child. It's okay to say no. I honor you taking care of yourself. 100%. There's another catchy statement here that says, no is a complete sentence. It's like the first time I heard that one, I was like, whoa, what do you mean? Like N-O period is a complete sentence. You don't owe anything to anyone after that apology. I promise it's on them. I promise it's on them. So that was cool. That was a nice little therapy coaching moment. So where are we at? Growth. So the growth was just, hey, previous version, evolve, transform. The next one is generosity. Most people that have been able to successfully achieve change are also, sorry, this is just more important than what I'm talking about here because Debbie said something too. As a parent, it takes so much to learn to say no, still an everyday struggle. And this, so Bill, I want you to see that Debbie's been watching this, Debbie and her family, spouse have been watching this for honestly 2 years. And they've gone through the roller coaster of this stuff, right, with their loved one. And to this day, it's still a struggle. But I promise you, I know this for a fact without even confirming it with Debbie, that 2 years ago, saying no wasn't a struggle. It was impossible. Like straight up, not even like a challenge in their life. It was just like, nope, not going to happen. Not going to, okay, whatever he wants, we'll do it. Even if it puts us in a bad situation. And just to say that today is better than it was last year is progress. That's growth, right? Been there, done that. That's what Vita's saying. You know, she has said yes 1,000 times to avoid the feeling of guilt, but no longer does that. Therapists say, and this is Sarah's, just so you guys know, for those of you who don't know, she's a licensed professional therapist. You know, she's really trauma informed, and people feel like saying no is saying I don't love you, but it's actually I love you enough to say no. I should just shut up. I should have shut up on that one. That's that's awesome. Thank you for that, Sarah. And we need you back on the show again. So Debbie did acknowledge they've come a long way. Let's see what Hossein says here. As a parent, I always used to feel that, but not fulfilling my loved ones' requests and wishes, I am deeply hurting their feelings. In reality, it was my feelings that were being hurt. I mean, you guys, I might as well just stop this and just let you guys talk here. I'm very proud of all the comments and feedbacks. No, here's another one. No was one of the most important words I've ever had the courage to say. I used to think as a parent, it was my duty to say yes. It is actually my job to say no. It saves lives. Wow. I couldn't have said that better myself. Mr. What was it up there? I think it was Bill. As you can see, this community, it's my first time seeing your name. That's why I kind of just want to take the opportunity to welcome you. As you can tell by the men and women that just responded right here, these are all parents, you know, obviously a couple therapists and counselors, but these are all like you. So I hope that you found something here, a little bit of relief for that guilt that you experienced, because that's pretty cool. And the last one that I have here is the word. So the E, so we're going to add empathy to it for Eileen, because I think without empathy, change is a really hard thing to do without being able to experience a different version, different perspective, different side. I do believe that allows mirroring to happen. It just allows a lot of connection to happen. So I don't have the talk on it yet, but I will add it to it. But the last one that I have up here is the word every day. You will not change anything in your life unless you do it every day. And you're looking at me saying, what do you mean every day? You're not going to change anything in your life unless you do it every day. And I'm not saying you have to go 100 miles an hour, balls to the wall, like just all in every day. But every single day, you must do something that changes your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, and it helps you connect to self and others. You must. Because that's the only way change happens. You know how many people try doing something for 30, 60, 90 days, and then they stop and they go right back to where they were? Do you ever wonder why? Because it was after that they needed to continue doing it for it to become a way of life. Like things just don't change. Just imagine like when you put water, I'm sorry to dumb this down so much, but if I put water in a freezer and it freezes and it comes out and I leave it in a room temperature, all of a sudden it goes back to being water again. So in order to create something, the environment needs to be changed consistently forever. And that's what a lot of people don't want to do. You know, that's what a lot of people don't want to do, is that everyday thing. You know, I've been on record saying this, that a lot of us have these uphill dreams, but we have these downhill habits. A lot of us have desires for extraordinary lives with ordinary work ethic. You can't cruise your way to the top of the mountain. You must climb. You must climb your way to the top of the mountain. So in summary, today we talked about how to successfully make changes in your life. And the formula for change was the following: courage, commitment, compassion, humility, honesty, and hope, acceptance, learning how to say no, growth, and doing something every day with a little bit of empathy. All right. So I love and appreciate all of you. Leave some feedbacks about what you gained out of this, what you got out of this. I love today was, by the way, the parents that rallied around and said those things. It shows me how much you have found recovery yourself, because those comments, those sayings were impossible for you to ever be able to articulate and say when you first got into this program. When you first got into these support groups, none of you knew what you just shared right now. And you're very welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Because like I say every week, without you being here, I'd just be someone just sitting in his living room screaming to a laptop computer. And I look forward to enjoying the weekend. I hope you do too. And same time, same place. I will be back next week and we'll do this and it's going to be awesome. So congrats on the 6 months, Cataline. Keep it up. Love and appreciate all of you as well. And we will talk soon. Take care, everyone.